Hi guys, so I'm back today with a requested video from Lisa Lewis, and basically I'm going to talk about my current role as a teacher slash Synchro slash curriculum manager slash all kinds of whatever I am, and how I got into teaching. So from a very young age, everybody told me you're going to be a teacher, she's going to be a teacher when she grows up, blah blah blah. So I think it was always in the back of my mind that I would be a teacher. But I kind of was really interested in like Vogue magazine and Elle magazine. I used to love them. I used to buy them and collect them. And I kind of secretly wanted to be a fashion journalist and work in a magazine in London and all this exciting things like, you know, Devil Wears Prada kind of style life. So we'll go right back. So after school I chose to go to college and I studied English literature, psychology, media studies and drama and theatre studies. I'm so glad I took drama and theatre studies because I've always been a very confident person when I'm surrounded by people that I know, but whenever I'm on my own I would struggle to talk. So if I went into a new class and I had none of my friends with me then I would be really quiet and it would take me a while to kind of warm up and get to know people. Where if I was with my friends, I would just be myself. So drama really helped me kind of put myself in situations where I had to stand up in front of people and do crazy things. And it really helped with my confidence building. So I did that. So psychology just wasn't for me. I remember I got an E in it. I just couldn't, it just wasn't for me. So I ended up doing, in my second year, English literature, media studies and drama and theatre studies, and I thoroughly enjoyed all of those lessons. And then after college, I once again didn't know what to do. I was 18 years old and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Everyone's always told me I'm going to be a teacher, maybe I'll just go for that. So I applied for a PGCE at Northumbria University and I did not get on the course. I kind of sabotaged it for myself when I look back. I remember in an interview telling them that I had no patience, which is like, hello, are you trying not to get a place on the course? And I also, there was a mental math test and you had 10 seconds to answer 10 questions. So you had 10 questions and it would count down 10 seconds for each question. So they would say something like, I don't know, what is 39% of 156? Beep, 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 like this. And I was just like, I can't even answer this. I was just panicking and I didn't even answer one single question because it just freaked me right out. So I didn't get on that course, and when I look back, I think I definitely wasn't supposed to get on that course. I was far too young. I didn't know what I was doing, and if I'd gone into teaching then, I don't think I would be the teacher that I am today. I think I would have probably failed because I just wasn't prepared. So after I didn't get on that, I then thought, right, what do I want to do? Do I want to apply for a PGCE next year? And if I do, I need to get some more experience of working in schools. So I'd already had work experience at school where I'd gone into a nursery school and I loved it. It didn't feel like work, it was just kind of going in, playing with the children. We went on a trip to the railway lines and watched the trains go by. We went to the beach and took the children and it was just so much fun. So I remember loving that, so I thought I'd like to do that again. And when I was at college, we also had work experience where I went into my secondary school and I thought I might be a drama teacher. So I did a bit of experience with that, and then I quickly realised I didn't want to work in a secondary school. Everyone was the same height as me and it was just, I felt intimidated and scared and I didn't want to teach that age range. So after those experiences, I then thought, right, I didn't get on the PGCE, I need to get more experience. I'm going to go into a primary school. And at the same time, I thought it would be really useful to do an ICT A-level. So I did ICT A-level in 1 year. I did A2 and AS at the same time. And on my free time, I would go into a primary school and volunteer. And to be honest with you, the primary school that I went into was not very encouraging at all. It was my previous primary school that I used to go to. My favourite teacher at the time told me that I shouldn't get into teaching. It wasn't a good job, it was stressful and all this kind of stuff, and tried to put me off. And the woman that I was in the classroom with was just like so uninspiring. Our lessons were really boring. She showed me planning files which were like this, and it was like, this is the work you have to do, and kind of plunked it in front of me on the table, and I remember just being like, I really don't think I want to do this. So then I got a placement in the nursery where I'd gone previously, and I loved it so much, and the head teacher actually gave me a job. So all this crazy stuff was happening. So I finished my A-level in ICT, and then I started at MVQ level 3 in childcare. So while I was doing that, I was working at the nursery, and I loved it. I did it for 2 years, but the pay was really quite bad, and I didn't like the nursery manager. She wasn't paying me properly. So what would happen is I would get paid pro-rated. So because it was school term time, I wouldn't get paid in the school holidays. So they would pro-rata my pay across the year. But then if you had a sick day, she would take off your full pay, not your pro-rated pay. I don't know if this makes sense, but anyway, I wasn't getting paid properly. I'm just going to sit properly, hang on. Oh. I wasn't getting paid properly, so that wasn't good. And then I got a job at a nursery called Kids First, which is an amazing, outstanding nursery chain, and I loved it. And while I was there, I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and apply for the teaching degree again. So I applied and I got onto a strand called the Skit, and it was the best thing I ever did. It was a 1-year course. Because you already had a degree, you only have to do 1 year if you want to be a teacher after that. So I did a 1-year course. They took us to Denmark, and we saw how the kindergartens out there operate. I went to London. I worked in a school where there was no English children at all in my class. There was Polish, African, Indian, all kinds of children. It was fascinating, so different to the northeast of England. And it was a real challenge to kind of plan and be like, oh my gosh, these children don't speak English. How on earth am I going to teach them? And it was really good fun. And I actually considered getting a job down there once I qualified. Basically, the doors were open for us. If any of us on the course wanted a job down there, we could have it. But then I just got scared and thought, I don't want to leave home. I don't want to leave my parents. Again, quite young. I think I was about 24 at this point. So anyway, I finished Skit and qualified, and then I got a job in the town nearest to me in a primary school, and I worked there for 4 years and I really enjoyed it. But after about 3 years, I started to get a bit like antsy and thinking, oh, what, I can't just do this for the rest of my life. I'm bored, it's repetitive. So I taught in reception for 2 years, which is 5 to 6 year olds, and then I went into nursery for 2 years, and I loved nursery so much, but the school kind of didn't have much money and the resources weren't great, and I knew from working in private nurseries how much I loved the resources and how much more you could give to the children in those kind of settings. So I looked around and I found the job that I've got at the moment, which is Foundation Stage Curriculum Manager with the responsibility of SENCO and inclusion. And I also deputise for the head teacher when she isn't there. So it's a much more complex job, and to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to get it. I remember going for an interview and I got on really, really well with the head teacher and the school improvement person and the governor that were interviewing me. And I did a lesson and I covered all my bases. I know it was probably an outstanding lesson. Well, she told me it was an outstanding lesson. I got the lycra out and we were doing exciting activities. I got little padlocks and bags, and I told the children that, I can't even remember, it was like somebody had been and hidden things around the garden. So I'd hidden bags and the children had to go find them, and when they came back I had the key, and each bag had a padlock on and they had a number match. So I had like number 1 on the padlock, and then they had to find the bag with only 1 dot, and number 2 on the padlock and the bag with 2 dots, match them up, open them, and inside each bag was a different activity. I think I got the idea off Pinterest actually, kind of like I saw like a padlock game and I thought, ooh, this could help. So I got the job, and then I remember looking at the job description and just being like, oh my goodness, what have I taken on here? Because I accepted it. Wow, this is so much more responsibility than I had at my previous school, which is what I wanted as well. And it was only a nursery school, it wasn't a primary school, so it wasn't like I was being SENCO for hundreds of children. It would be small amounts. Sorry, Dan started cutting the grass. So my current role involves identifying any children that we think might have special educational needs. I then observe them and decide who to get involved. So it might be speech and language therapist, it might be an educational psychologist, it might be an occupational therapist, it could be the autism outreach team, all different kinds of professionals. I then speak to their health visitor and to their parents and say, look, I have these concerns, would it be okay if we go ahead and get a professional in to just check them out and make sure everything is okay. The hardest part is getting the parents on board. A lot of the time parents are very defensive and they don't want their children to be any different from other children. So you've really got to build up relationships with the parents. Then I will, if children are diagnosed with something, say autism, I then have to go ahead for an educational healthcare plan, which involves a lot of paperwork, a lot of evidence of everything you've done, a meeting with all of the professionals that are involved with the child as well as the parents. I then have to write up reports, collect reports from all of the professionals, coordinate all of this. It all goes in a pack and I send it off to the SEN team. The SEN team then invite me to a panel meeting where I then go along and have to fight basically verbally for this child in front of a panel of professionals, which is scary as anything, I'm not going to lie. And then basically if the child is accepted, they then get funding which will go through school with them and pay for any extra provision that they need. I also have to go to a lot of meetings and training sessions throughout each term, which obviously just train up my skills for the job. What else do I do? I'm also a full-time teacher, so I have a morning set of children and an afternoon set of children, because in nursery they only come in for either a morning or an afternoon unless they are childcare children, in which they stay all day. So I'm also a full-time teacher. Now that involves teaching the children, observing the children, making assessments on the children, making up learning journeys and meeting with parents about their progress. I'm also one of the designated safeguarding leads in the nursery. The head teacher is the main lead and I am her deputy, and that means if anyone has any child protection needs or issues, they then come to me and I then pass it on. So that's a really big job as well in itself. What else? And I think that's about it really. I also deputise for the head teacher when she's not there, so I can, just make sure that the nursery is running smoothly, and I deal with the day-to-day management of the staff, which people don't seem to think is such a big job, but you will not believe how many times members of staff come up to me and ask me things. I mean, we're talking 30 times a day at least. Someone will come at me with a problem and I have to sort it, and it's just part of the job, but it gets so tiring, and on a night after work I'm usually just so tired that I can't even bother to do anything. And I don't tend to make weeknight plans anymore because I never want to go to them. So yeah, that's kind of where I am in my career. I hope this has been okay. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask and I will try and answer them for you. I think I've kind of covered everything quickly. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for the request, Lisa Lewis.